Okay, welcome back to Nicklin's Comic Corner Classic Lesson on Classic. This is episode number 1875, as it's episode 25 episodes away from that 1900 episode. Also, 125 episodes away from episode 2000, which might happen this year. Yes, maybe. All depends on how much basically I get for comic orders. Okay, now we got two trades from Daredevil, mostly from the Ed Brubaker run. These are basically, first up, we have the third to last trade that collect issues from Ed Brubaker's run for Daredevil with Cruel and Unusual. This collects issues 106 through 110. Now, Ed Brubaker co-does these issues with Greg Rucka, which I believe is the only issues he ever did for the series. Now, 106 basically is Paul Akita. The rest of the issues are by Michael Lark and Salva Granito. Michael Lark has been the regular artist of this run since issue 82. Mostly put for this one, it's basically like Matt Murdock going out of case, and just basically also dealing with Dakota North, who's basically become a regular character in here. She gets briefly wounded during this case, and her father, yes, Mr. North, shows up. And he's not happy with the fact that Daredevil put his daughter in the hospital, basically unintentionally put his daughter in the hospital. But he also helped basically take down like some crime boss, whatever. It's an okay story nonetheless, but basically just we just did a really big epic story arc with the whole thing with Mr. Fear. So we need something low level before something really interesting happens. Also, Melina's basically still in the mental asylum. So she's there for a while. She's not going to be in this run much longer because Ed Brubaker kind of in a way toward the end of his run kind of wrote her out of the series because by the time Andy Digo took over, she probably wasn't even mentioned in the series at all. Yep. For the third to last story arc of this run for Ed Brubaker, it's not bad per se, but I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Now we get something a lot more interesting happening. We have Daredevil, Lady Bullseye. Excuse me. And believe it or not, the penultimate trade that collect issues from Ed Brubaker's run. I say that because it is. Because with the very next story arc, he's done. And then Andy Digo takes over for the remaining 12 issues of this era before it gets relaunched the following year. Yeah, these issues came out now. They do have it where I believe it was in I think it was this issue right here, where they bring up what happened to pages of New Avengers, because Ed Brubaker probably mentioned by, this probably was a note that probably Bendis probably told him to mention, the whole thing with the hand, where they're leaderless, because it was revealed in the pages of New Avengers, I think just a couple years prior to this one, few years, that a lecture placed by a Skrull. Yep. As for, here's the weird thing about this. It is not known of when this happened or how long this particular Skrull Elektra was in charge. To my knowledge, they've never explained this. It's a very arrogant plot thread that still to this day, Bendis left Marvel a few years ago and never explained it. Just, Elektra's a Skrull. The only reason why it's there is that Secret Invasion like the following year. Here it's referenced here. Now, Lady Bullseye, they explain her backstory. Well, apparently when she was younger, she is pretty much, get this, she apparently is inspired by Bullseye himself. Yes, Bullseye does briefly appear in the storyline in a flashback. She's Bullseye, likes what he does, and becomes the female version of the character, while also basically sporting face paint and much better attire. Now, yes, Ed Brubaker is the writer of this book, and it's still Michael Lark and Stefano Carnito on the artwork. The 111 is done by Clay Mann, and 115, but it takes up issues 111, 115. We also have a debut of Master Izo, who is a character associated with, Iron Fist. We also have a thing where Daredevil is told to take on the hand, and he's also even offered the position of leadership of the hand. The whole point of that is lay the groundwork for the very next story arc. That's really the whole purpose of that. Also, kind of with this particular story arc, Melina herself is written out of the series, and she's never heard from again until Mark Waid briefly brought her back for a couple issues of his run, and that's been it for the character. Yep, and basically Lady Bullseye convinces Melina's parents to basically take custody of her. And also, one of the most oddest things happens in these issues. Matt Murdock has a one night stand with Dakota North, which he regrets doing that, and Dakota North regrets doing that. And to my knowledge, this relationship, after this arc wraps up, is never brought up again. Nope. Iron Fist appeared in these issues, which is great. This probably was loose inspiration for something related to the Iron Fist TV show, stuff related to him, because here's the thing. Now, my guess is the reason why Ed Brubaker threw in Iron Fist in these issues is because he wrote the Iron Fist series. That's the only reason why for that. And of course, Daredevil does battle Lady Bullseye. And of course, Lady Bullseye is pretty much a regular character from this point forward up until the end of this era with basically Andy Diggle's run is when they basically stop using her in the main Daredevil book and basically put in other books. It is interesting, though, you have someone like Ed Brubaker, a guy known for spy stories, creating the female counterpart to Bullseye himself. And it's nice they threw in Bullseye in the flashback. I thought it was really good. Also, apparently, in her secret identity, she's a lawyer. Just like Matt Murdock is. And, yeah, this, of course, just really good. Too bad this is actually the penultimate storyline of Brubaker's run. Because Return of the King, because they're going to go to Spain. Why they go to Spain, you might ask? Because they're going to get Wilson Fisk. Yep, he brings back Wilson Fisk for his last story arc. Because, of course, basically, it's going to do that because they're going to play a role in the next story arc. The next one, anyways. Yep, I got to say, really good. I give this book, here's a shocker, a 10 out of 10 because it actually is really good. The only thing I don't like about this storyline is the stuff with Melina's parents. And, of course, this whole storyline with this is kind of shoved to the side because the whole thing with Han, it's never actually resolved. Like, it's implied that Daredevil's marriage to her just ended because this one night stand. Because the one time he cheated on her, one time, which he regrets doing that, and somehow her parents found out about this. Yeah, that's one thing about this storyline that's never explained. Like, oh, they find out that he had a one night stand with a PI and then Dakota North. Okay, interesting. I'm loving where the storyline is going, and I can't wait to get my hands on the final story arc of Ed Brubaker's run and move on to Shadowland, the road to Shadowland. Because technically, for this era, we only have 2 more eras left. 2 more trades left to go for this run. We have Return of the King, which contains issues 116, 119, and 500, and Road to Shadowland, which contains 501 to 507, which basically was a build-up to Shadowland, which I discussed basically Shadowland itself already, along with the tie-in issues I got from Comic-Con a few years ago. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I might get my hands on that particular storyline in the future. Who knows, okay? So yeah, that's it, particular review. Stay tuned. Maybe later on for my review for the first review for I've been killing slime for 300 years and maxed out. I might do first video of that tonight, okay? Next video. Bye.